Good day, everyone. I am Celeste Swart, and today we are going to look at something called concords. What concord really is, it's an agreement, and we speak about the agreement between subject and verb. So in other words, they suit each other and they belong together. So the verb's form has to match the subject's number and person. And here I want to remind you again that practice makes perfect, so you need to remember to practice. Use the language so that you can become really good at it. You also need to know your pronouns. Things like the verb to be, which is am, is, and are. But remember, in present tense, it would be I am, he or she is, it is, you are, we are, and they are. If we look at the past tense, it was I was, he was, she was, it was, you were, we were, and they were. And very often you correct yourself without even really realizing that it's because you've said something incorrectly and you are correcting your agreement between the verb and the noun or the pronoun. We look at this one, the man. Would you say the man am, is, or are kind? You would say the man is kind. And that is because if you were to change the man to a pronoun, you would say he. If we say our teachers am, is, or are busy, our teachers are busy. Why? Because our teachers would then take the pronoun they. And then therefore it would have to be they are busy. When we look at this, the form of the verb, remember we already said it must be in agreement with the subject. We've already looked at teachers, but why have I put it here again? Simply because there are some groups that you're going to see later on that when you look at the group, you look at whether or not you are going to see them as a group of people or as one unit. And we get things like when we look at the police and things like that, we realize, oh, there the police could be is or are, for the simple reason it would depend on how we're looking at that. But we'll get to that a teeny bit later. Okay, so we take something like search. If we were going to say the dog searches for the puppy, he or she or it searches for the puppy. I search for the puppy. You search. We search, they search. So we always have to look at the correct form of the verb to see if it works with the noun or the pronoun. There are quite a few rules that you can learn to know about the noun and the verb agreement for the concord. If you use the word and, you have things like Janet and Barry are good sprinters. So let's see why we would say that. Because if we took Janet and Barry, we would say they are good sprinters. And there are rules you can learn for this so that you can think carefully about what you want to say and how you want to say it. So let's have a look. You must remember the following. If two nouns form one idea, then it's just one concept. So every man and woman, every tells us it's one. That's why you say every man and woman is concerned. Each and everyone is pleased. Here we have the one idea, but we have two nouns. Bacon and eggs is my favorite dish because it's one dish. Macaroni and cheese is good too. It's like there's a partnership between them. But if I were to say I'm going to buy macaroni and cheese, then I'd say at the shop, I could say something like macaroni and cheese are expensive items, because then I look at them as two different items. So there you have what I've just explained to you, or bacon and eggs are both sold out. We have the two items of cheese and macaroni are both rather fattening. When we have or, you often get an instruction to write join two sentences together using either or, neither nor, things like that. So let's have a look at the rules that you have to do for this. And you can get this later on when you download this. Look at the noun or the pronoun nearer to the verb. And here your verbs are is, am, are, those sort of ones. So let's have a look. Look at the pronoun or the noun nearest the verb. Janet or the boys, they're plural, so the boys are. When we ask a question, is Janet or the boys responsible? It's a singular because we look at the first noun. And you can see with the others, either Janet or Barry is. When we look at the others, neither and nor, neither Janet nor the boys are. Not only Janet, but also Barry is. And then we look at not Janet, but the boys are responsible. So there you get the idea of the rule. And it's a very simple rule. It's so easy to stick to. When we look at with, together with, like, including, and as well as, we look at the first noun. So yeah, it's very simple to see that I have highlighted the first noun so that we know that is what we're looking at. Boys is plural, so boys will be are. Janet together with the boys is. Janet like the boys is. All the children, including Janet, are keen. Janet as well as the boys is keen. So remember your rule here with, together with, look at the first noun. When we look at a bunch or a pear, grapes are good to eat, but a bunch of grapes is good. When we look at trousers or glasses, we say they are expensive, yet a pair of trousers is expensive. A pair of jeans is expensive because we look at a pair. Scissors are sharp, but a pair of scissors is sharp. You see the slight difference between the two. Always remember that. You're going to find that it's so much easier for you when you know the rules. Because if you think of something like sport, then rules are so important there as well. Without rules, you cannot play and be fair. So yeah, you have some rules that are going to help you understand what to use. When we look at distances or amounts, if we talk about, for instance, 5 kilometers, we think of one distance. So we're not going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers are. We're going to say 5 kilometers is too far to walk because we're thinking of it as one entity, one unit. 3 kilograms of steak is one quantity. You see there why we use is? Because we're thinking one idea, one concept. One of the boys is a keen tennis player. Why? Because there's only one tennis player. But if we say she is one of the girls who love parties, then there are lots of girls who love parties, but she is only one of them. They recovered one of the cars that were stolen last year. So many cars were stolen, but one of them was recovered. Now, let's look at how do you see it. Remember, I spoke about sometimes you'll see it as singular or plural. Depending on how you think of, that is how you see the group. If we say the class is organizing a picnic, your class is planning this as a single unit, the class wants to have a picnic, then it would be the class is organizing a picnic. But if you think of different individuals in class and they're all arguing about the food for the picnic, then the class are arguing about the food. We often see things like when they speak of the police or schools and things like that, that it changes a little bit depending on how it is seen, but it also has to be grammatically correct. Okay, so please remember that. Don't get yourself all mixed up by thinking, okay, but class can be either. It has to be thought of as one unit to be singular. And if it's seen as individuals, then obviously you would have to see it in the plural. Now, part of a thing or things, and oh my goodness, for part of one object, we use a singular verb. If we think of, like, see, you're only getting half a burger there. Half of the hamburger has been eaten. 3/4 of the water has been spilt. Some of the food is spoiled. So what do we have here? All of these are referring to part, and it's then singular. And just a tip, instead of saying things or thing, let's use terms like not, the stuff we speak about. Let's think of them as, for instance, entities, objects, items, instead of calling them things and stuff. because, as my colleague always says, the only thing you stuff is a turkey. So let's keep it at that the turkey is stuffed and nothing else. So we look at objects, or we look at items. Now, for part of many objects, we use the plural verb. Here we have lots of articles. We have sandwiches. So half of the sandwiches have been eaten. But that's why we cannot say has, because has is singular. 3/4 of the boys have stayed at home. Some of the children are tired. Okay, so now let's just look at this one where we have mathematics. Isn't that wonderful? We're teaching you maths in English. We say 25 plus 20 is 45. 3 times 200 makes 600. It's all seen in a singular form. 60 divided by 10 equals or makes or is 6. So there you can see that even with this, we are working this way. And then I must remind you again, remember, practice makes perfect. To be like a good athlete, you need to train. To be good at English, you need to use the language. Speak it, read it, write it. Good luck. Thank you.